Did you know that one of France's former kings vanished without a trace? And no one has ever been able to figure out what really happened to him? The young monarch's mother was Marie Antoinette, the last queen of France before the Revolution. And his father was King Louis XVI, who was executed by guillotine in 1793. Louis XVII lived through some pretty difficult times. Sadly, history doesn't tell us much about him. Well, if you want to find out all about this strange case, then stay tuned, because today we are going to be discussing exactly what happened to King Louis XVII. For example, we don't even know how he died, or if he even made it past his teens. However, in 1795, at the age of 20, he was finally captured and thrown in prison. It was here that he spent the next 10 years of his life until his death. But let us explore this topic further and see what we can find out about this lost child of history. Things seemed to be looking up for him until 3 years later, when he started to fall ill. At first, it was thought that he had contracted tuberculosis, but eventually he recovered. Some say that while he was imprisoned, Louis XVII suffered terribly. But what happened to his remains after he was buried is a whole other story. After his burial, the cemetery where he was lowered into the ground was destroyed. However, in 1901, a group of school children uncovered a skeleton while digging in the dirt. At first, everyone assumed that they had found the bones of Marie Antoinette. After all, there had been rumors that her remains were buried here as well. A road was then built directly over top of it. It said that he had to sleep in the same bed as a dead girl, and that the stench was so bad that he had to plug his nose shut just to try and get some sleep. They traveled to the Chateau Diablo and examined the exhumed remains of Marie Antoinette. By comparing the two skeletons, they were able to conclude that the bones found in the basement of the Grand Châtelet definitely belonged to the former king. They believe that he was buried in the basement of the Grand Châtelet, which is a building that sits right across from the former site of the Conciergerie prison. But there is still a lot that we don't know about the life of the lost king. He found a letter written by one of Napoleon's generals, which mentioned that Louis XVII's body had been moved to a different location in 1815, whatever the truth may be. Louis XVII will continue to be a source of fascination for historians and those who are interested in the French Revolution. Was he a brilliant escape artist, or was he just a victim of circumstance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We don't know why he was kept hidden for so long after his death. This was significant because it was the year that the French Revolution began, and Louis XVII's life changed forever. But there was still a chance that these bones could have belonged to someone else. Then they dug down 10 feet and unearthed a coffin. Inside the coffin were human bones and an inscription that read 73. While this didn't explicitly say that the bones belonged to Louis XVII, it was clear that they were from a member of the French nobility. But that was far from the case. Paul searched for the missing bones for years, but he was unable to locate them. It wasn't until 2007 that his remains were finally discovered. Others claimed that he was treated fairly well and that he actually received visits from his sister, Princess Marie-Therese. As a result, Louis XVII, his mother, and his siblings were taken to the Paris jail known as the Temple. Some people even claimed that they had seen him walking around Paris disguised as a woman. Of course, these were nothing but wild rumors, but they show that even as a prisoner, people still had a hard time keeping track of the young king. On June 17, 1811, at the age of 26, he breathed his last breath. But there is still some mystery surrounding his passing, because there are conflicting reports about the cause of his death. Sadly, it was here that the little boy saw his father for the last time. Louis XVII was born on March 27, 1785. He became the King of France when he was only 6 days old, right in the middle of the French Revolution. The problem is that there are so many different stories and theories about the boy king's life that it makes it hard to sort through and determine which ones might be true. Fortunately, since his body was never examined after his death, we may never know for sure what killed him. Still, despite the odd circumstances surrounding his death, it was well documented. As soon as Louis XVII was born, he was whisked away from his mother and taken to safety. This was done to protect him from the revolutionaries, who were now taking control of France. You see, Marie Antoinette had become very unpopular in the country, and she and her family were constantly under threat of violence. His head was cut off and placed in a wooden box, and then buried in a secret location. The following month, the 14-year-old Louis XVII watched in horror as his mother was executed as well. But thankfully, he was saved from the same fate by a guard who smuggled him out of the palace in a basket. By separating the baby from his mother, they hoped to keep him safe. However, this didn't work out as planned, because in June of 1792, the Tuileries Palace where the royal family was staying was attacked by an angry mob. In October of 1792, Louis XVI was led to the guillotine and beheaded. He was then hidden away in a series of safe houses, where he lived in disguise and took on false identities. Unfortunately, once again, there are multiple accounts of what happened during this time period. Whatever the truth may be, we do know that while he was locked up in prison, rumors began to spread that he had escaped. Then in 1804, Louis XVII was moved to a small apartment in the Tuileries Palace. However, in 1810, Louis XVII sickened again. This time it was clear that he would die. Some historians believe that he died of tuberculosis, while others think that he was poisoned. There were several members of the French nobility who attended his funeral and saw his body being lowered into the grave. So we know that he did indeed die. The place where he was laid to rest was the same prison where his mother and many other aristocrats had been executed during the Revolution. For decades, people simply assumed that Louis XVII's body lay underneath this street. But then a few years later, a member of the French Academy of Inscriptions and Belles-Lettres named Paul Sonnino came across some documents that revealed the truth. This new information made it seem like the mystery of the lost king had finally been solved. A group of French historians and forensic scientists used old maps and documents to track down where the young king might have been laid to rest. Using ground-penetrating radar, they located a cavity that appeared to be a grave. You see, the Roman numeral 73 refers to the year 1789. So the forensic team decided to do some more digging. Finally, after decades of searching, historians had managed to solve the mystery of what happened to Louis XVII's body. For example, we don't know for certain if he escaped from prison in 1795, or if he was actually the young woman seen walking around the streets of Paris. Some believe that his body was purposely lost to hide evidence of the execution of the last king of France. So what do you think happened to Louis XVII? And if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out our channel for more historical knowledge. Thanks for watching.